So, what can I say? It's been a long day and I'm tired. In fact, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to lie to you. Let me move you around so you can actually see me. Typical me. I'm going to keep this real and raw. Okay, I'm going to give you short snippets on here because the rest is for me. Okay, it's my life. I've lived through it. But I just wanted to share this with you. So the topic today is where it comes from that you're not enough. And it's come from some point in your life, and from all the research that I'm doing, the therapy that I've partaken in, and more importantly, my life in general. Sorry, the dog's coming for a fuss, as she does. Yeah, going back on track. So she's sorry, I'm on about Lola now. Right, distractions. So basically, cutting a long story short, I'm going to give you brief snippets on here of how I can sort of help you. And I'm more than happy to provide one-to-one sessions, okay, to run alongside physical health. Now, you don't have to be a gym goer. You've got to do what's right for you. Now, where I felt like my conditioning come from was from a child. So I grew up with a dad that was very, very strict, and he never believed in himself. So his behaviour, he conditioned sort of through to me. He ruled by fear. He was a very harsh man, and going in the army at 16 was actually easy. I thought they were nice. They thought I was all crazy and they were always scared. And I was like, these are actually nice to you. And yeah, I was always the one that they were like, you're mental. And I was like, you haven't lived with my dad. And I'll never forget really the moment where realisation as an adult sunk in, really. I was the kid that got bullied at school for being overweight. Okay, she's big, she's brown, she bounces on the ground. Michelle Brown was actually the words that they used to use. Okay, and yeah, it was hard. It upset me. It really upset me. Of course it did. And I trained from the age of, because I always wanted to go in the army, so I trained from the age of 14. I ran and I had a structure. And my dad, bless him, I don't hate my dad. I don't have a relationship with my parents anymore. Through my own choice. You know, my own family, my children need me, and they're my priority in life. I love my mum and dad and I respect them and I understand why they are the people they are. And my dad went through quite a tough upbringing as a child, got bullied, ended up being dyslexic, you know, suffered abuse, which is why he was who he was. And now I understand that. I understand my dad and why we triggered each other and why we clashed. But I was always the one that would stick up for myself. And that's why me and my dad clashed, because I'd stick up for myself and I was the only one. And it was, you know, my childhood was really, really tough. My mum was sort of a people pleaser, which is very much like I've been for years. She sort of put up with things that she should never have put up with. And that come from her childhood. So the moral of the story is conditioning comes from, it's all related to trauma at some part, and it's normally childhood. Now, for me, the realisation was when I went to my army selection. I'd ran for 2 years, so went from this overweight girl that couldn't even run around the block to coming first on my run out of everybody on the army selection. Typical Michelle. Long short course as I'm renowned for. I went wrong on my route, and my mile and a half I did in 10:16. I had to backtrack, come back round, and I saw everybody running down the hill, and that's when my competitive streak sort of came out. And I thought, nobody's beating me because I want this more than anybody here. And I did. So I came first, and when they told me that I'd actually passed and got in the army, one of the officers had all had a bet, and they were all stood at the top of the hill. And when they said to me that I'd got in the army and I was successful in my application, it was probably one of the proudest days of my life. And I'll never forget the phone call to my dad where he said, what time did you get? And I said, 10:16. I come first. I was so proud. And his words were that resign with me forever, and they always will. that's not good enough. You should have got sub 10 minutes. And I didn't dare tell him that I went wrong on my route. And I know I could have got a sub 10 minutes if I hadn't have done. But I'd done something. My dad always wanted to go in the army and he didn't, but he ended up being a miner in the pits. He was a very, very, very hard worker. And as a child, you know, he provided for his family and we never went without a thing. So I'm very much like him in that respect. And my mum had a heart of a lion and I'm like my mum, you know. And so there's a lot of good out of some bad situations. If you can sort of have the mindset to retrieve the good things out of a bad situation, that's massively going to help you. So that's where my conditioning came from. So from that, I've attracted my only male role model from a child growing up was my dad. So when I've been in relationships, I've sort of attached myself and attracted people that have been through similar trauma, and learned that they became a trigger for me, and that's why my relationships never went or worked out. And I sort of found myself in some really, really abusive relationships and suffered above and beyond, because obviously I was like my mum in a lot of respects. And I've been through stuff that I never wish anybody to go through in a lifetime. And I've always felt like I wasn't good enough. I couldn't do things. I felt like being in the gym, there was a lot of strong coaches and I was always the rubbish coach, the one that wasn't good enough. And I was so wrong. So wrong. I was always good enough. But I was truly blessed that I was surrounded by a team of people that could see me for who I was when I couldn't see myself. So it's so important, and it's a saying that's very true. The people you surround yourself by around are who you become. So if you surround yourself by successful people, doers, achievers, and even if you can't see your own self-worth, just to have that one person that believes in you can sort of make the difference to whether you're going to excel and finally see who you are or not. And I do believe that you need to go through downfalls and hit rock bottom to be a strong person. You look at, you know, world famous people, Richard Branson, Jim Carrey's one for me. He's one of my favourite actors, and I hated him. I couldn't watch his films because I didn't understand his mental health for him as a person. Why? Because I was in a bad place, and now I understand him. I think he's absolutely amazing, and we share very similar values, and the values that you withhold are basically going to sort of evolve into the life that you end up having and doing. And yesterday, she's one of my clients now. She's only been with me a short time, but she's actually going to be doing one of the interviews at a future date with me. She actually sent me a voice note and she was crying, very emotional, and she expressed that I'm the only person that's ever believed in her in her life. And she'd actually got to a high level in a sport. I'm not going to give too much away because I'm quite excited for the interview. And she got the opportunity to compete for Team GB in a sport, and because her parents never backed her and went with her, she never sort of pursued her dreams. And I've got the pleasure of working with her, and I see great things happening for her, and she's absolutely flying and winning. So surrounding yourself with them people, and I'm very blessed to have that at the gym, that I'm a part of the team. They are literally my family. They are everything to me. They've picked me up so many times. You know, they really have, and I wouldn't wish to be part of any other gym. Forfeit is where my heart belongs. Massively, you know, I love all the guys to bits, and I think they're an incredible team, and the attributes that they bring collectively as a team, we are the best gym in the world. There's not one doubt in my mind. So if you feel like you're not good enough and you haven't got confidence, you've sort of got to take a step back and look at sort of your childhood, relationships you've attracted, people you've allowed in your circle, and maybe sort of start giving yourself praise for the things that you've achieved, bad times that you survived through, because I'm sure if you're this type of person, you have survived through a lot of bad times. And these are the making of you. So your downfalls and the bad times are the making of you. So Jim Carrey, as I went to before, he wrote himself a blank check. He got bullied at school. He was the weird kid, never fitted in. Look at him now. He's one of the best actors, and, you know, he's very successful. He's very wealthy from just being who he was. And the character he plays is basically hiding he could hide the mask, he could hide behind different characters, and that's who he was. So you'll normally find that people that have suffered trauma will sort of hide behind an exterior. So you'll see, if anybody's ever been on my profile, I was known as the Ice Queen. The Ice Queen. I've spent many years on my own, and at times, you know, that was quite lonely and quite sad. And it was, you know, I remember going to a wedding and all the couples were dancing together and I was on my own and I felt really sad. But if I don't feel sad now, I love my own company. I love who I am when I look in the mirror. And there was couples also arguing at the end of the night, and I was glad that I was not having to deal with that massively. And so being on your own isn't always a bad thing. If you can learn to love who you are, you're never going to be lonely. You've got to embrace them things. But the moral of this sort of video and this snippet that I'm doing is you've got to start sort of working on yourself and put yourself first. You've got to sort of pull out your strengths and give yourself credit and praise for that. But you've got to work on your weaknesses, and you've got to put your hands up and sort of see where you're going wrong. On a lot of my pictures from earlier days, I had quite a stern face, I was quite an aggressive character, especially towards men, and I know why now. I didn't, you know, someone could be asking me a genuinely nice question, have my best interests at heart, and I'd be so defensive. So someone could say like, Michelle, and they could be nice, and I'd be like, what? Yes! You know, and that was my defense mechanism. So we go into the fight or flight mode, and if you've been through any form of trauma, you're not going to be the person that you were born to be. You're going to be the person that's hiding behind the pain and the hurt. So having therapy, counselling, help is going to massively help you. So mindset is key. I do a lot of meditation. Okay, I'm going to be covering that on later videos, and sort of disturbed routines like not sleeping through the pandemic, which has massively affected me. But there is coping mechanisms, again, that I'll cover on later videos. So the moral of this story is realising that you've always been enough, embracing your strengths, working on your weaknesses, and never think that you're not good enough. You've always been good enough. Nobody's better than anybody in this world. We are all good enough. And we were born to be good enough. As babies, we never needed anything. We had that safety net around us. It's only as we progress, so from the age of 1 to 7, what a child sees and experiences, that conditioning stays with them for the rest of their life. Sort of in relationships, they attract people they attract in their life, behaviour, what they deem as acceptable, how you see yourself as a person, whether you're confident or not. And it's just, I could go on forever. I literally could go on for so long. It's not just a short-term fix. You know, I'm not saying that I'm perfect and I don't have bad days. I get exhausted. There's days where I think, I don't know how I'm going to get through this day. But I do. Why? Because I'm worth it. I'm good enough. I'm worth it. And I've got to keep working for it. I know where I want to be. I know what I want to achieve in life. I've got some short-term goals, long-term goals, medium-term goals. And I know I'm going to get there. There's not one doubt in my mind. So if you're somebody that's had low self-esteem, confidence, you've got to sort of trace your steps back to where that could have come from in your life. And once you start getting answers to questions, you'll get inner peace and freedom, but not sort of holding any resentment or remorse towards anybody, because there's always a reason why somebody is that person that they are. And if you can understand, especially with mental health, then it'll sort of give you inner peace and freedom to sort of flourish into the person that you were meant to be, and sort of you can retrain the brain thought process. So I did some rapid transformation therapy, which is the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. I've had counselling over the years where I never pursued it because I wasn't in a position where I was ready to. And, you know, I've walked out and not gone ahead with it and thought, yeah, whatever. It's because I wasn't ready. You've got to be ready. And I appreciate not everybody's going to understand this. A good example I'll use is a person that I know suffers with mental health themselves. When I first set up this page and advertised it on a story, they actually laughed. They were the only person that laughed, but they very much suffer with their own mental health. So I sort of felt sorry for them and understood why they did that, but that's only because I took the time out to research mental health, to learn my problems, to understand who I am. And you'll see me a lot now smiling. I'm happier than I've ever been in 39 years. I feel at peace with everyone, you know. I want to help other people in my position. And I want to give that back, and I know I can. I was born to do it. There's not one doubt in my mind, and I wouldn't have gone through what I have in life if I wasn't meant to give that back to other people. So I'm going to leave this with you guys, okay? I hope this has helped you. I'm 100% confident it will have done, okay? So again, put comments on there, give me some feedback, tell me if it's helped you. I've had numerous messages just in the short space that this page is going, and I'm so privileged that I'm in a position and so grateful for all the hardships, the lessons that I've been through, and fortunate to be in a position to help other people. So have a look for further details. I won't be posting tomorrow. I'm very, very busy with work, and I've got to sort of prioritise myself. I am going to be putting things on the page, okay? Take a look at, and we're going to be covering different topics and things like that. But if you're someone that's really struggling and you would benefit from a one-to-one session, I can combine sort of the counselling aspect with physical fitness, so you could have a split session, or I could just do sort of the mindset work with you and the counselling side of things. So contact me direct, message me. You can message me on here or on my normal Facebook, which is linked. You can see it on there, Michelle Brown PT. And I'm more than happy to help anybody. More than happy. But again, if you message me for more information on my prices for my sessions, I'm more than happy to sort of help you with that. But take what you can from on the page, guys. I've also learnt in life it's very rare and not very often that there's genuine people out there that want to help you and they've got your best interest at heart. But when you have got that, you sort of don't take that for granted, and you sort of keep hold of them people in life. I'm going to leave this with you because I have got my tea to have, my son's tea to cook, and I need to rest, ready for an early start again tomorrow morning. It's a very, very busy day with work, with the people that I'm working with online, with the challenges. So good evening, take care. Again, put you first above anything in life and you won't go far wrong. Thank you.